Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the complete Mozart piano sonatas played on Mozart's own Fortepiano by Robert Levin. Now, ClassicsToday.com's Jed Disler got his fingers on this faster than I could. You know, we're in sort of an informal contest, Jed and I, to see which of us will get the thing first so we can talk about it. And Jed got it first and wrote a wonderful review on ClassicsToday.com, which I strongly recommend you go and have a look at because, you know, as usual, Jed's authority in these matters is incontestable. And he thought this was absolutely fabulous. He thought it was a 10-10, and it was right up there with this one, the Ronald Brautigam, as your main competition on Fortepiano, which also got a 10-10, and the ClassicsToday.com 10-10 sticker back in the days when we were manufacturing those. So yeah, I mean, there's some really good Mozart on the Fortepiano. Jed thought this was amazing, and I could not agree more. It is amazing. But first, let's talk about the instrument, Mozart's Fortepiano. That, frankly, to my mind, is a gimmick. It would mean nothing if it were not a good-sounding Fortepiano. Happily, it is. It turns out that this particular Fortepiano, which was probably built by Walter, they're not 100% sure, but the great Viennese Fortepiano manufacturer, was very well preserved. Constanza gave it to her older son, not the composer one, the other one who worked in Milan as a government official, but was also everybody was a pianist or violinist back then anyway. He played the thing, and he preserved it too until like the 1850s, and then donated it. So it hasn't been messed with too much that we know about, and it's really a lovely sounding instrument. You know, the secret of Fortepiano performances, as with harpsichord performances, is finding a good sounding instrument. You know, the difference, it's very funny, the difference between, you know, modern pianos and early instruments isn't so much, well, it's one of consistency. Modern pianos all sound like modern pianos, and they sound good primarily. I mean, yes, there are moments and people who use weird instruments, but essentially, what has happened in instrument construction is that it has been standardized and raised up to a level of really serious achievement, so that whatever instrument you play on is going to sound like itself, and it's going to sound good. And that is sort of the modern take on it. But when you're dealing with earlier instruments, it's not that they sound so different from modern instruments, it's that they sound so different from each other. And that's the problem, because we have so many recordings of this music on period instruments where the instruments just sound like crap. I mean, I remember doing that awful series of Mozart piano concertos with Jos van Immerziel. You know, as I wrote in the review, he was principal xylophonist. I mean, he played on this dry as bone Fortepiano. It sounded horrible. So you've got to have an instrument that is appropriate to the music. And as far as this being Mozart's Fortepiano, well, like I said, it's a gimmick. I mean, did Mozart conceive of the music for this instrument? Who knows? Did he love this instrument? Who knows? Were there better instruments? Surely. But this one is good. It's a good sounding instrument, no matter whose it is. It has enough sustaining power and attractiveness of tone so that you can achieve an actual cantabile in the melodic lines. The bass notes are surprisingly distinct and clear and unboomy. It's a beautiful sounding instrument. So that's step one. We're in good shape as far as that goes. Second of all, we have Robert Levin, who is, of course, one of the great Mozart scholars and great Mozart performers of the modern age. I mean, he completes three, you know, sort of partially completed sonata movements in here, and he does it very, very well. And you would be hard-pressed to say which is Mozart and which is Robert Levin, because he really knows his Mozart, and he writes very good fake Mozart. He's excellent, and that's okay. You also get the Fantasy in C minor in here, which is a nice bonus. But here is sort of the take that I really gather from this set. In the booklet, they quote, or Levin quotes, the C.P.E. Bach essay that I've actually read on this website. I mean, in this channel, the preface to C.P.E. Bach's Sonatas with Varied Reprises, where he explains, why people want to ornament repeats, and he tells you how to do it in this group of sonatas, which were quite popular in C.P.E. Bach's day. Then he tries to make the case that Mozart and Haydn and Beethoven were all heavily reliant on C.P.E. Bach's aesthetics in writing their keyboard works. And yes, it's true. It's all of this is true. I don't think he needs to do any of that to make the point, because he's so good. He is a heavy interventionist when it comes to ornaments. He really takes the C.P.E. Bach dictum literally, which is that ornamenting the reprise doesn't mean just like adding a trill or doing a mordant or tootling around. It means sometimes recomposing the music. I mean, really recomposing, adding little interludes sometimes, or cadenzas, or changing the melodic line, or altering the underlying harmonies in some way. But he does it with extraordinary taste. That's the point. And in that context, to get a sense of where you are, if you can sample this on YouTube or something, listen to the Sonata K545, the easy one, the Sonata Facile, da 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 ba da dum, ya da 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 ba da da dum, that one, and listen to the exposition repeat, and just listen to what Levin does. It's recognizably the same sonata. The phrases are basically the same length. The melody is there for the most part, but it's changed, and it's changed in wonderful ways. It's so important the way he does that. He's very different in that sense from Bräutigam. Bräutigam is in some ways livelier and a little bit more flowing. He achieves his interest in a slightly different way. He has I think, a more flowing sense of cantabile phrasing than Levin does in some spots anyway. I mean, it's one of those swings and roundabouts things. But he is a much less interventionist improviser than Levin, which means that these are not directly comparable. They're both wonderful, but you can get them both for different reasons and enjoy them both for what they are. But the thing that makes Levin's set, I think, so important is that if you really pay attention to these sonatas, the thing about Mozart and what makes his sonatas so tricky is that, Mozart was a big composer. He really was. I mean, it was, what the emperor said, too many notes. He wrote lots of notes. He wrote long notes. The sixth sonata in D major, it has a finale, which is a theme and variations. It's 15 minutes long. And you want to characterize those suckers, because if you don't, it's going to be a snooze fest. It really is. I mean, it'll be dire. And this is exactly what Levin accomplishes. He does it so splendidly, not just by varying the repeats, but by making something out of each variation. He really gets the personality that keeps the music interesting throughout its length. I mean, there are sonatas here, the F major sonata, the late F major sonata, I think it's 533/494 or something like that. The F major sonata, that's a 30-minute long sonata. I mean, if you take all the repeats, 30 minutes, that's big. That is long. And by varying the repeats the way he does, he keeps it interesting. He makes us want to look forward to the repeat and not just say, oh, God, he's a period instrument guy. It's literal. He's going to repeat everything. It's going to kill us. No. It's absolutely fascinating to listen to what he does. He sustains the length of these long variation movements, these long sonata form movements, and the sonata form slow movements. The sonata with the rondo alla turca, the wonderful finale. Most people don't realize, because they only listen to the finale. It begins with a theme and variation movement that's almost 13 minutes long. These are substantial pieces of music. And they're written in such a way that they need real input from a tasteful and intelligent interpreter to sustain their length. I really believe that. I came late to the Mozart sonatas. I always liked Haydn sonatas better. And it's invidious to make these comparisons. It really is, because genius is genius, right? But But Haydn's sonatas, I always liked Haydn, so I associated them more with the composer and with what my expectations were of the composer. Whereas Mozart's always struck me as long. And, the best performance were the ones that left out as many repeats as possible, because you only have to hear it once to enjoy it. And when they stretched it out, it just got to be really a bit much, I thought. But no, not here. Not here at all. This is the kind of piano playing that makes you want to hear what he's going to do next. And I think no praise can be higher. So this is on ECM. It's beautifully packaged. It's in a nice sturdy box, 7 CDs. You get a really, really intelligent and complete booklet with several notes about the instrument and about the music and about Levin's approach to the music. It's just everything that really terrific period instrument and just general music making these days ought to be. It's all here. This is the complete package, beautifully, beautifully done. You will not hear better from anybody. It's just up there with the ultimate in Mozart piano sonata cycles. So go for it. What more can I tell you? Keep on listening, and thanks for joining me.